You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Hello, happy Sunday. I hope it's going well for you. I wanted to talk about something that's not getting a lot of coverage. It's a small story, but I think it's pretty interesting and is emblematic of what I've been saying for a long time, which is that these lawyers are part of the problem. And it centers around the murder of this man, Arturo Bravo, who is seen next to the married woman he was having an affair with, Rachel Leon. He was killed by Rachel's husband, Greg Leon. Greg Leon was tracking his wife's car, and he tracked her down. She found her in the back of a truck with Arturo Bravo. Thought he had murdered them both, but unfortunately just killed Arturo Bravo. Now, Greg Leon was convicted of this murder along with other crimes on July 6th, and he had been in the prison for a week before he took his own life. And why am I saying that lawyers are part of the problem? Why am I talking about lawyers? Because anyone who is following the Alex Murdaugh saga or trial might be familiar with Eric Bland, who is the lawyer of Gloria Satterfield, who was the cleaning woman, I don't know of a better word, assistant, housekeeper for the Murdaugh family, who fell down the stairs and whose money they claimed was stolen by Murdaugh. Murdaugh signed an agreement that turned over $4.5 million to the Satterfield family. And of course, Eric Bland would get a lot of that. Now he's also the Smith's family lawyer. Now, Stephen Smith was killed in a bizarre, found on the road. I don't even want to say it's being investigated as a homicide now. It's hard to say. But right when this happened, around the time of Greg Leon's death, we saw tweets from Eric Bland talking about this, right? And so I just wanted to, not that. I just wanted to go through his tweet. So let's say it. Not that one. Hold on 1 second. Okay. I have it so far up. Okay, here we go. So here's where he's announcing the death of his friend. So he says, Eric Bland says, "Life keeps delivering blows. My good friend and friend to so many, Greg Leon, passed away at 11:56 last night. I'm really hurting. He left a legacy for sure. 2023 has not been a great year for me so far. Maybe even years are better. Greg lived a full life. He was super religious. I met with him on Thursday, and he saw I was distraught. He told me God has a plan for him and that somehow he believes some good will come to him. Here is a photo of Greg praying to Mother Mary during his trial. Pretty special." Right? And then he gets an outpouring of support. So he says, I really have to thank the group I prefer to thank you. I just want to say I'm so appreciative of all the well wishes and kindness that you have expressed towards the situation with Greg Leon. I was just really lucky guy to have friends and people in my life who are thoughtful and caring. The world can be a cold place at times, but our little universe here is full of really good people. You prayers should go to Greg's family and his coworkers. So nowhere in this should anybody be thinking about the life that Greg Leon took or how he traumatized his wife. He delivered a life sentence of grief to those who loved Arturo Bravo. But then he doubles down on this in another email. Unbelievable. I cannot say enough about the kindness and professionalism of the medical staff at Palmetto Prisma, and certainly the law enforcement officers from the Department of Corrections who accompanied Greg to the hospital. They all were kind. This is a testament to how much Greg was loved. The hospital permitted everyone who came to visit Greg was around his bed when Greg passed. Never saw that. Almost to a person, every single one of Greg's employees came to the hospital to express their grief and support the family. Grown men who have worked for Greg for 25 years were on the floor crying like babies. I have never seen such an outpouring of love for one person. Yes, Greg made a decision that had incredible consequences, and he took another person's life, and I don't discount that. But 5 seconds of a man's life should not define him. Other than Jan Warner, who was a very good friend of mine and lawyer who died in the 90s, this was the first death of a friend that I have experienced. It really sucks. And I'm sure it does really suck, to use Eric Bland's language, but 5 seconds of a life? The 5 seconds he decided, what about the time? 5 seconds don't define him, then what does? Once you take a life, you can't reverse it. I'm just not sure these lawyers are getting this. And to hold this murderer up, and I understand he was your friend, but with no consideration to the victims' families is just outrageous. And we also know that right before this happened, interestingly, Eric Bland is a civil attorney. Right before this happened, 3 days before, there was a wrongful death lawsuit filed against Greg Leon. So let's take a look at that news story. 3 days before, South Carolina restaurant magnate. So Greg Leon owned and ran a chain of restaurants called San Jose in South Carolina. And he was also accused of witness tampering in his trial. So the jury took 3 hours to convict him of the murder of Arturo Bravo. He said it was self-defense, but there was no signs of that. He had stalked his wife to the scene. And then the first person he called was Eric Bland, who admittedly encouraged him to turn himself in. But maybe Eric Bland is too close to this to memorialize his friend in this way. I just don't get it. It's like such a callousness towards the victim and the victim's family. Okay, let's get back to this news story. So 3 days before, South Carolina restaurant magnate Greg Leon died by suicide in a South Carolina prison, a wrongful death lawsuit was filed against him by the estate of his murdered victim. According to court records, the filing was submitted on Tuesday, July 11th, 2023, in Lexington, South Carolina, on behalf of B. Reynolds Elliott. Elliott is the personal representative for the estate of Arturo Bravo, the 28-year-old who was gunned down by Leon on the evening of February 14th, 2016. So this isn't just a random date. Valentine's Day can be very triggering. Has anyone ever also seen the documentary Killer Sally? She murdered her husband on Valentine's Day as well. At the time of his Valentine's Day murder, Bravo was having an affair with Leon's wife, Rachel Leon. According to the lawsuit, Bravo's heirs and statutory beneficiaries sustained actual and punitive damages due to the, quote, negligence, carelessness, gross negligence, and recklessness, unquote, displayed by Leon in the murder of Bravo. The lawsuit seeks, quote, fair and just, unquote, compensation, both for Bravo's wrongful death, as well as, quote, his conscience, pain, and suffering, the cost of this action, and for such others relief as many may be appropriate under the circumstances, unquote. What led us to this point? Just hours after dinner with family and friends on the evening of Sunday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, Leon shot and killed Bravo as he rendezvoused with Leon's wife in the cabin of a silver Toyota Tundra pickup truck she allegedly purchased for him 3 days earlier using Greg Leon's money. So Leon, this is not the only trouble with the law that Leon had got in. He had hired so many illegals for his restaurant that he had a deal going with the sheriff that should any of these 60 illegals that he hired to work at his San Jose restaurants, should they get picked up, that he would pay the money to keep them off the books. So there would be no record of him. And he took a plea deal, and the sheriff that he was paying went down for that. And in this trial, he tried to bribe a witness who was Bravo's transgender roommate and former lover to say that Bravo was always carried a gun because they were going for a self-defense claim. Always carried a gun, was really dangerous, even tried to say that he was a pedophile. I mean, just really shocking. So that came out in this trial. And they never stopped disparaging the victim in this. And they continue on even after Leon's death to make this just a minor thing. Well, he had no choice because this was a really dangerous guy. And in one tweet, Eric Bland was arguing that it really was self-defense. The jury rejected that, Eric Bland. They heard that argument. No, they rejected that. So these civil attorneys are really part of the problem with innocence fraud. I don't know where their head is at as far as victims and morality. Because it's interesting to note that Leon got rid of the gun right before he turned himself in. Now, was that something that Eric Bland told him to do? But, I think he's been seen in contrast to Alec Murdaugh, another civil attorney, Eric Bland, because he was on the Satterfield side, I think he seemed immune to criticism. But what is going on? And when people ask me, well, I mean, isn't this like innocence fraud movement? How can it ever go down? Well, lawyers are so much of the part of this movement. And if you even if you sort of turn them into these to the bodies that they work under, their lawyers are going to investigate it. So it's very hard to stop something that's making money. And certainly this civil lawsuit, I wonder who would have represented Leon if the civil lawsuit had gone forward. Wouldn't you think it would be Eric Bland? I don't know, maybe not. But that is just a little of what I have for today. And it's interesting to note, hold on, that so this is a tweet from Lily in London, obvious, and she remembered Eric Bland talking about Alex Murdaugh, and he's saying, this is Eric Bland saying, I quote, I would never advocate anyone committing suicide, but in Alex's case, meaning Alex Murdaugh, he has ruined so many people's lives already, and there's so much more coming, unquote. So he wouldn't advocate for it, but isn't he advocating in that? Let's read that again. I would never advocate anyone committing suicide, but in Alex's case, he's ruined so many people's lives already. I mean, doesn't it sound like he's advocating for that? I just think it's obviously a story that's getting overshadowed by bigger stories like the Long Island serial killer, and I've certainly been following that. It's very interesting. And obviously Rex Heuermann is someone that you would never think would be responsible for this crime. But that is, I think, what I have for today. I just wanted to touch on the kind of insensitivity towards victims and their families that continues on, and the kind of just the making these massive crimes and characterizing them as a mistake. Now, we've heard Kim Kardashian say the same thing. Don't judge people on death row, people in supermax prison for murder. Don't judge them by the worst mistake they ever made. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a passion murder. The man who sold him the tracking device, Leon, the tracking device that he put on his wife's car, said he never sold a civilian one of these tracking devices before. So it tracked in real time. Greg Leon could see in real time what his wife was doing. And in the month before, Leon was on dating services, online MILF selfie websites, that kind of stuff. Now, of course, his defense team says he was looking to track his wife. But I would think the prosecution would say that maybe the marriage was really on the outs and he was having affairs of his own. But to make this a kind of minor thing, to make it like a mistake, he had plenty of time to think about it and turn around. This was not a moment of passion, a loss of control. He knew what he was doing. He stalked his wife. He planned to kill her too. And after he killed his wife and her lover, he called 911 and said she had it coming. So what are we talking about here? I just don't understand this mindset. It's just so far out from anything that I think of as normal human behavior. But that's what I have for today. I'll be back to talk about more exciting subjects next time. Have a great Sunday, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.